Alright, welcome to an unscripted video. Glad to see my little mic bars on the screen. Sometimes I forget to turn the microphone power on. Look, if I'm talking a bit softly, a bit modest here, I'm kind of close to my home base. I feel like I've got neighbours nearby. I don't really care to do my videos at home, or I'd be sitting in the gazebo at the back. It's beautiful, it's lush, it's green, it's very wet. I don't really care for my neighbours to hear this. I'm quite willing to put it out there in the world, but you know, limited with who I care to share it with. Yeah, sorry to not share my eyes with you. Why would a person be out in this crazy heat? I don't know. It's a warm day here in Australia right now. It's probably well in the 30s. Probably we peaked at about 37 today. I'm trying to think what that would be. It's like 99 degrees Fahrenheit or something. Considered a fairly warm day. Look, I didn't have sunburn when I did this morning's video, which I put up earlier today. The time it takes to upload this will probably be tomorrow's video, but if you look at the video before this, I probably don't have sunburn across my face, and that was probably less than 15 minutes today of trying to hold a shirt over my head and just walking. So it's kind of a warm one. Look, I guess arguably I should be at home, probably chilling out. Oh, is that autofocus issues? Right, it's the first time I'm ever using autofocus. I don't trust it. It's no good. There we go. Usually I'll set all my settings, and knowing I don't move very much while I'm doing these videos. Look, I know this is very amateur hour. I know if I haven't got your attention in the first minute, you'll probably move on. Statistics show that. So that's good. That's my filter right now. Yeah, I don't trust this autofocus at all. Probably going to kick it off. There's a switch. Let's see if I can... Oh, there it is again. And if I just go... Trying to do this from memory. There should be a button about there. There we go. And whatever I've just done there, I don't think that was the one. You think, just start it again. It's like, no, I really want to filter out people from this video. I'll be back in a second. Dush. Right. How's that? So just bear with me. Now I'm actually going to do some focusing. Oh, it's not zooming. It's not zooming. Look, see, I'm out of focus. Here we go. In focus. Somewhere around there. Let's bring it forward. Alright. Anyway. That'll do. Ha. So, why would I filter out my audience? Okay, this video isn't my standard video. It's true. Most of my other videos are about being a conscientious consumer. Every so often I do a video that's sort of more about me, just arguably just therapy, just talking at the camera. This one's probably more about, I like to think spirituality, spiritual concepts, right? And that there, as soon as you talk religion, right, everyone kind of argues or just leaves, doesn't want it part of the locking of horns, the dilemmas that come with that, right? So I'm not doing this video to be controversial, quite the opposite actually. Just having the enjoyment of listening to that beautiful album. It's by a band called One Giant Leap. It's called What About Me? I think everyone in the modern world should listen to such an album like that. And actually the reason why I have this theme video that I'm coming into now is that I alluded to some concepts the other day, probably about gender roles and everybody wanting to be the opposite gender. And came to realise as I was being massaged on a massage table, I had a hard day, and Mrs. is working me. And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to this music, and I was having a real claustrophobic moment. But basically because of one of the lyrics on the album just set me off. And I've been trying to redress that today on the way to where I was going to, and I was in a car, and I was a bit of a claustrophobic moment. I was talking this story of believing that at one point I believed I'd died as a chimney sweep. And look, I've never been one to believe in other lives, but a bolt of lightning struck near my house once when I was a teenager. And actually I might have been in my 20s, but I woke up in the wee hours of the morning just as if a bomb had gone off, and I actually felt like I was in World War I, and I was adjusting my helmet, and I was, look, it was so real to me. And it took me quite a while to get my heart rate down. And that kind of just planted a seed conceptually, that if the holographic theory of reality is that maybe we're just like clusters of different, the weave, if you wanted to use the Celtic imagery, the great weave, that we're all just part of the blanket, all connected, if you will. And anyway, today while listening to that wonderful album, What About Me, by the band One Giant Leap, and there's great lyrics on it. It's a very healing album if you actually work through it, and I'd encourage. So the music's quite diverse, usually a couple of famous artists per track, and a couple of people just travelled around the world with a laptop and just recorded this music, put it together, and I think it's the second album they did. Their first album's really good as well, and I don't know if they've done any more. They're the only two I've got. But anyway, I listened to this beautiful music, reflecting on these things, and I realised when I was having this claustrophobic moment how much I've probably spent most of my life being envious in a gender role way. Like everyone at the moment wants to be the other gender, you know, and we've really just got to embrace the moment now. Hence me being out, possibly getting more sunburn. You know, we've just got to live the life we're given, I would argue. There's lessons to be learned, and so in reflecting on that, I realised this notion of believing I'd possibly died as a chimney sweep. And I know that my initial thought when I first thought of that was I was deeply embittered. All of a sudden my thoughts in my conscientious life I'm living now sort of really changed towards being jealous, I guess, of the alternate gender role. And I'd seen that all through primary school. It's like the boys would be asked to stand back and stack the chairs, or the girls got to go to recess and stuff. And I was raised under a single mum, and I was raised under pro-feminine values, and just started to realise that when you start to sell a dialogue constantly, that there is actually the reverse dialogue, but if it's not getting the voice, you know, there's a Ben Folds 5 song, he's talking about being almost the repressed minority because he's a white fella, like the repression for him, even though he's the most gender, demographically, you know, the middle-aged white rich folk or something, and he's like, talking about the difficulties. I forget the name of the song that it was all about. I'm not really into Ben Folds 5, he's got some good songs, but whatever, you know, it's not as good as One Giant Leap's projects, perhaps, in terms of relevancy to the planet and the healing that music brings about. You know, you listen to lyrics that are worth something to you, your poetry that heals. Anyway, today, and reflecting on, again, the nature of these gender roles, and realising if I died as a chimney sweep, that this deep, profound feeling in me that was just like, in that time in history, if I'd been born differently, that death wouldn't have been basically guaranteed to me. And, you know, maybe I didn't die. Maybe I just had my typical moment of just feeling like I can't get enough air. And this is something that's come about. I never really had been claustrophobic until a couple of moments in my life. There's only been one or two moments, but those moments is when I feel like I've connected to this other moment in history. Whether it's just me connecting to someone else, you know, maybe it is just me in another light or a life. Funky concepts, you know, hence why this video is potentially about, I guess, aspects of arguably spirituality, but, you know, it's just concepts. I mean, we should really be free to explore concepts. Sorry that if I keep looking at the screen, not directly to your screen, through your screen. I must admit I'm not entirely comfortable with being this close to a camera. Normally I sit back a bit further and just crank the microphone a bit louder. And I guess, as I say, I feel like I've got a footpath right on the other side of this camera setup. I feel like I'm in a public space or a place, and this isn't discussion that's fair to be brought up anywhere. But on the notion that healing happens when we share topics, and generally when we find like-minded people, or, you know, the friends that suit us at any given time in life might be because they've got themes or dilemmas going on that we identify with, and therefore we find that because of that like nature, that it's cathartic or healing, I guess, to be in their presence. So it tells us that we probably need to widen our blinkers, or to be more empathetic and to sort of embrace more. Maybe we'll achieve more healing through that just by changing our own outlook. And I think that's the endemic issue for the generations that are growing up right now, is that we are empowering them to have a drama, which we're not giving them a healing outlet for that. Like, to let them, we see the symptoms, right, but we don't understand the underlying cause, right? So the symptoms are they're profoundly unhappy, and they believe they know what it is all about, right? And so now we empower children to make adult decisions and affect their lives profoundly going forward, to the point where the society kind of grinds to a halt while we have a generation of people that can't necessarily be employed anywhere because we can't engage with them in ways that there's no adultness. They just go, look, your world's too serious. It's really, no, the world we all live in the same world. The world is serious, right? But we've always known that. And it's always been a case of maybe we didn't have as much internet education, perhaps, that we all do. It's just knew that in life you take on a profession and you earn money, and that's generally money is a solution to all of life's problems, and that was it. That was good enough. That was good enough to dedicate your life to, and then eventually you'd retire, and ideally you've got some friends around you that you can go on living an enjoyable part of your life maybe not with the mobility to enjoy your money anymore. Yeah, the carrot ways. I'm not saying they're working, and that's the issue, is that we all know it's not working. But for an upcoming generation to come and just say, "Oh, it's not working, therefore I don't need to be part of it," right? Gee, I wish we could all do that. In fact, if we all did that together, we wouldn't have the problem anymore, because all the commercialism goes on while ever we're backing it. You know, like case in point. And this is, I'm not trying to encourage anyone to rebel against the government. I had a suspended license, and I'm currently training up to be a driver, and I had to figure out what's that about. And it's like, "Oh, you didn't vote." And it's like, "Yeah, I've never in my life voted." And they're like, "Well, we passed a law that if you don't vote, you get this fine, and this fine, because you haven't paid it now, has locked your license off." I thought, well, wow, imagine if everyone just chose to not drive cars anymore until they turn that back, because like everything would grind to a halt. Nothing would get delivered, nothing would get to the shops, nothing would, well, I mean, a lot of people probably do vote, and it's probably not really an issue. You could say you're a lazy prick for not getting up there, and the lady on the phone just said, "Oh, it's not an issue. You just you know, you just turn up at the centre, and you register that you're there, and then you just don't have to cast your vote." And I'm like, yeah, well, you kind of have to do that, otherwise everyone wouldn't vote. They'd just go, "Oh, it's a hot day today, I don't want to go out," right? So you got to do it. I totally get that, and I don't mind. I've paid the fine, arguably, so it's all good. It's all good now. But yeah, like, arguably, if we do things together, right, and that's what it comes down to, is we need to embrace others that might be different to us. We need to embrace the notion that everyone deep down has this profound want to look after their family and belong, be part of a community. And you might say, "Oh no, the community around me is too sick, I don't want to be part of that." Well, that's because you're not seeing a community that you believe you could be part of, right? But when you do find that community, right, and eventually you do, you'll find a group of like-minded people, and you go, "Oh man, this is my community," right? And when you do that, you've kind of most of the way towards finding your bliss, you know, so long as that group can nurture you towards your state of being healed, you know, that you can be your actualised person, and then you can be in your best sense or your best self. You know, that's sort of what life is about. It is a journey, right? And you do find happiness, but it is something that you make, and it's got to come from inside, right? It doesn't come from outside. It doesn't come from outside using spac filler and changing you, right? It comes from inside. It's just, you just got to change your point of view, right? Because at any given moment, we've just got to find that stillness and just channel back in through ourselves and find our bliss, right? And so I guess Buddha said that there's a cycle of suffering, and that really we want to get to this stage in life where there isn't that suffering. Now, case in point, I refer to being a chimney sweep, and that's my suffering, right? So here I am in this life having suffering because I believe I've been connected to that. Well, ever we've got these commercial systems that rip us off, right? And they cause us all types of suffering. And they do, because, you know, if you've got products that get firmware updates and they break, whatever else, I got lots of them that do that, the suffering goes on, right? And so at this point in time, if we don't do anything about it, 20 years from now, we're going to have all sorts of ways that the super rich, or whichever category's been left, that with a few companies that are out there, they'll have absorbed everything else. The few companies that are out there that are still competing against each other. Good sci-fi usually shows there's only 4 or 5 big corporations that sort of rule the world, and you know, they're still probably battling it out, but eventually they'll never be able to absorb each other, and it just gets down to a whole other world of nasty. But that's good sci-fi, you know. Maybe that's not happening. Maybe. But yeah, like, if we don't do something about it, we're going to find unhappiness in the future. And the nature of a holographic universe, if that's a theory and that's a concept, then the suffering goes on, right? So really, we need to actively stop the suffering in this moment now. So there is ways we can do that. And I do believe it comes to a bit of a universal change. It's the first time in history where we've got mass communication in such a way that we could get a solution out there. If we did have a solution, I believe I've got a solution, but that's a topic for a different video. That we can certainly unify. And so it is a time where we can put an end to the notion of suffering. And then it really comes down to what is personal suffering, right? And so, look, there's differences between having physical ailments and pains, right? If you wake up and you're in a physical ailment or pain, right, that is your physical body suffering. But as we know, that mental suffering is probably worse, right? And for me, like, just the concept of when I think of people that are lonely in a crowded room, that is horrific. It is, because that person doesn't have the concept to be able to break out of the prison that their mind is making them feel that they're in. And I mean, that was sold to me as a nightmare. I watched horrific media at some points in my adolescence, if you will, my childhood growing up. And there was a show, and it was called Nightmare on, not around a given street, Cedar Street maybe, I don't know. And it had a particular guy Alexander, was it? No. Might have started with J. Anyway, anyone that's watching this is going, yes, Jason's a name, right? So some people watch that sort of media. I choose not to fill my brain up. I've got finite time in this world. I try to be very selective in my media that I watch. I try to sort of fill my head up with things that might bring me bliss or knowledge. Arguably, knowledge is power. But you know, things that I find enjoyable. And sadly, all the people that write the media are all sad themselves, and they encode their personal fears into it, or they sell media to an audience that needs hurtful media because that gives them bliss or moments of relief, or takes them away from whatever they're currently suffering. But yeah, in this horror movie, and it was a person who'd woken up in a class and they were surrounded by all these people around them, and when I was watching this movie, I was like, oh cool, they're safe because they're surrounded by people. And it's like, no, they're actually dreaming, and therefore they can't communicate with any of these people around them, and they can't actually get the help they want. So I guess that's the way I can understand the mind jail that some people might feel when they're maybe in a mall or in a bank or just in a line somewhere, and they just can't handle being there, right? Because whatever's going on in their mind, they feel they can't share it, or that they don't have a person that's compassionate enough with the patience, perhaps, to listen to them in their life. Right? Now there's people out there that can do that, but for those two people to meet requires that person to be healthy enough to be able to reach out and say, hey, I need help. Right? So generally we're all kind of falling off the radar because of all these self-imposed prisons at some level. Right? People who have physical ailments, it's a bit different. Right? And ideally, medicine would be able to get those people righted. But obviously in a world where medicine is about profit, not people. Right? So medicine isn't about healing people. It's about dealing with the symptoms, not the cause. Because if you deal with the cause, the symptoms go away, right? But you fix them once, and you don't make any more money off them, right? So medicine stopped being that quite a long time ago. And so for all these self-imposed prisons that we as a planet work, the problem is that we're all just too busy trying to earn money, that none of us have the energy or the effort to actually put the solutions in play that would be needed to make it all work out for us, right? So the nature of our prison going on is because it's not because we're too lazy to deal with it, right? We're all too tired living in it, right? And basically, we've all just got to draw a line simultaneously and say no more, right? But that's not going to happen. So, you know, videos like this one exist. Why do they exist? I don't know, maybe for a laugh. Maybe for you to go, oh, look, there's maybe a like-minded person. But reality is, if you look at the vast majority of the rest of my videos, they're usually about tech, or they're about like hard physical concepts and constructs, and I'd say politics, but I never skirt to talk about politics. I just try to pitch a solution towards happiness. No, I've seen it, I've lived in it, I believe it absolutely to be intrinsically true, or it's very tangible. It's a tangible reality that I've experienced, you know, either through waking up and just having lived in that world, and having held that dream now for 20 or so years. I'm really happy that at no point did I see my child in that dream, because my child's now an adult. By law, basically. And if I ever had I wouldn't have had the belief that the dream could happen, or I would have been disempowered to believe, oh, it's so far away from happening, right? But because there's no actual timeline set in this vision coming about. But there's a lot about it that I realise, wow, it is practical even now to still roll out. I guess I've been disheartened through most of my life, thinking, oh, look, you know, I haven't brought it to fruition. You know, if I was Noah and it was the ark I was charged with bringing about, it's like, I don't want that burden. I don't really enjoy being on a camera. I only make this video so that there's just a little bit more media, a little bit of variety, so that all my videos aren't just dry or down a particular hobby path. Because I mean, I do have hyper focus, right? I do believe that whenever I think about something, I can really lock onto it. Case in point was my video a couple of videos back where I might have redressed gender roles in such a casual and offhanded way, but it was because I had 25 minutes to maybe record a video before I had to go off for my day and do my things that I need to do in order to live. And so, because the topic of that video wasn't specific to that, my throwaway topics, or the few words I shared on that topic, were probably fairly ingenuine to the suffering of people whose entire world they feel is that, right? So the nature of these videos, they're one way, right? It's not a two-way conversation, right? If I had maybe 50 subscribers, I could run a live video, and maybe I could do live feeds, and I could engage. I'm quite happy to do that. But yeah, I'm never going to pitch or sell myself, because I don't really want to be here and doing this role, and yet I still continue to do it. So there's my passive-aggressive nature of being this salesperson. I don't dress up right. I'd actually down-dressed, if anything, because it was probably a bit sweaty, but I was wearing a really nice shirt before. If I'd gotten in front of the camera wearing that shirt and this hat, I would look really sharp, right? If I was to script, right, and raise the quality of these videos because I didn't have a full-time, like, everything else I have to do in my life just to put food on the table and live, then absolutely the quality goes up. And then I get scripts. Then I have a duty of care to actually raise the quality for everyone. At the moment, I believe, if I'm doing it for free, you get what you pay for. You maybe get a bit better than that. It's a powered Rode microphone. Yeah, that's clearer than just the inbuilt bloody microphones on the camera. So, that's a step up. Arguably, I go to the effort of paying a phone bill each month. There's a lot of data, and I record in high dynamic range for no other reason. I'm not doing 4K. You don't need to see every pore in my face. But, Australian sun and light and the blue in our sky. We don't need vivid cameras. We've got vivid colours all around us. I'm in Western Australia. We've got this incredible flora and fauna. It's quite amazing. That being said, if I was trying to roll out a growing really healthy food and making use of the red soil on the other side of the country where there's been volcanic activity and it's got lots of nutrition in it, you can actually use it to grow, I'd really kind of like to be over there. I just feel I'd just be trying to get that happening. There's a lot of communities over there that do things in a small scale, but if you do things on a big enough scale, right, there's jobs for everyone, every profession, everything's needed, everyone can be happy, everyone can opt to just have a day off because they're fatigued for whatever reason. There'd be less of that in a world where you're actually genuinely happy, and but you elect to do your hours and just rock up, and everyone therefore is at a much happier pace and calibration, and just everyone working together from a point of happiness, right? Then all the people you see are operating from a point of happiness, and all those encoded the stresses, right? Because everything's failing us, and we're all on the verge of being snappy, right? We're all apologetic when we're snappy. Down the track to our loved ones, we feel apologetic, we feel sad internally. Some of us just continue on feeling sad. We use that as a reason to justify, I'm just going to feel sad today because I was crappy to someone yesterday, and then we'll speak to someone later today, and because we were feeling crappy for so long, we'll probably be crappy still. Right? Yeah, that's not really starting the solution, the path towards healing, right? So the important thing that we need to do is, of course, tend to ourselves and to start that path of healing. But with that, and the purpose of this video was just to say, look, we are loved. If you're not experiencing love right now, you're going to experience love at some other time. And if you just received non-stop love, you would stop to see the love. Right? That's the nature of humans. We've got this dualistic brain. We only see something because of the absence of something else. We know white because there's black. We know hot because there's cold. We know up because there's down. Right? And that's just the way our brain is wired. So if you get something all the time and it's never taken away from you, you no longer don't notice it. You don't pay attention to it anymore. Right, it's no longer important to you, right? But if you have it, but don't have it, and have it and don't have it, then you might seek it out. It might become important enough to you to do something about it, or to follow it up, or to try and get it back again, right? It's kind of important. Anyone out there that's got a wedding band on is probably thinking they haven't paid enough attention to their significant others. Yeah, maybe this video's just a little jog there to go and a loved one, or even just a friend. Just have a genuine conversation with them. Don't do your usual hobby stuff. Just have a genuine conversation with them. Put your own stuff aside. You've just had time with me where I've just done this. You've been my informal counsellor. Now you go do that for someone else, but do it actively, right? And actually listen, and just give them moments of when you would normally talk. Just let the silence go on a little bit longer. Just see if they're willing to trip up over themselves and try and let a little bit more out of their mouth, right? You might actually hear little sighs and sounds as they let out some of their pains, and they'll be really deeply thankful to you as their friend for checking in on them and spending that time, or just family members, checking in on them, spending that time. There we go. It's a bit more of a spiritual video. See, that's what it's all about, because our spirit, right, it connects us to all life, right? Life. That's what's important. Probably by pulling that branch down, I probably just broke a whole bunch of spider webs. Probably just screwed up all the energy now. It needed to be expelled by all these other little life. I feel like a bit of a prick for that. I was just trying to pull a tree. I didn't want to pull a branch off. I wanted to bring it to the camera, show a bit more colour. That's what it's all about. We've got to have more of a gamut. We've got to try to get out of our own little chair, or our own little cot. We've got to kind of just be a little bit wider, a little bit more dynamic, if you will, and just take on a bit more of the light that's out there, because definitely happiness is out there, and as humans as a whole, we're not really achieving it. The first step towards achieving it is living at the level of courage. Right? Once we live at the level of courage, things become possible. It's a life-sustaining energy, right? And that's just incredible. And then from there, other things can be achieved, right? So, look, I'm not expecting that I've empowered you in the nature of this video. I don't think I get my typical number of watches, which will be 20 people might accidentally click on this video and realise within a minute they don't want to watch it, and so they'll move on, right? And that's why I put that filter at the start. But if you've watched this far in, right, leave a comment, right? Even just if it's a smiley face, or even if it's a frowny face, right? I can respond to you and go, oh, okay, you're frowny because you feel like I wasted your time, or you're frowny because I didn't address a conversation, a topic in a way that you might want me to, or you're frowny because I dismissed a topic that I should have talked about longer because you actually had a moment of joy at some point in this video and you go, oh, I feel like that might actually be relevant to me. Yeah, right, so you're quite welcome to. I'd encourage it, right? Make a conversation two-way. Communication is key, right? But yeah, as is living at the level of courage. If you're going to be a sole operator or a lone practitioner in your life, and you're going to just do it for yourself, then yeah, try not to live in the hurt world or mirror or role model the hurt world, because all of our media is just role modelling hurt and pain. Right, you got to go out there and you got to start channeling something, some happiness from yourself, and you got to start putting it out there. Right, that's a requirement. If we're going to change this great pantomime, this drama in life, and the hurt and the suffering, right, this cycle of suffering, if we're going to change it, starts now. Starts by being just that little bit on the way up. Right, so an upward trajectory. I am wishing you. Right, normally I will wind up my videos with the words "well wishes with." So